Hello there once again, it's your old pal Locke the Bounty Hunter, and on today's very special episode, look who it is, the Drizzle Queen herself. You know, the one who made that 10-minute long dissertation where she explained absolutely nothing and thought it was an own against men. Well, she is ready for round two, and what kind of intergalactic bounty hunter would I be if I did not give you some very glorious cringe, gentlemen and gents? So let's not waste any more time and dive right in, shall we?
Look at him. Got his whole ass out. If y'all's whole movement is satire, then what's the joke? What's funny about it? It's what makes it so satirical. The point can be in y'all's literal face like this, and y'all still don't get it.
Well, neither do you. The joke is that we're actually using your own language against you and showing how absurd it all is. You clearly don't get it. You're taking this personally. Most of us are just in on the joke. We're not taking it nearly as serious as you. That's actually kind of sad.
Like you still don't get it. You're projecting because you're not a good man.
Well, okay, if I'm not a good man, you're clearly not a good woman, because all you have done is pass nasty judgment against an entire group of people you haven't even met yet. And on top of all of that, you're just saying that we're projecting when all we're doing is having a little fun. You're the one that's taking all of this too seriously.
Men have never had a problem dating women. Like, do you know what I mean? Men on a large scale stand to lose almost nothing from their relationships with women other than the consequences of their own actions, like children and having to pay child support.
Ooh, yeah. I'm gonna have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there.
That's actually quite a big gamble because child support is never measured fairly, and on top of that, women are almost guaranteed to get that plus alimony, and in a large number of states, that woman could cheat on her husband, still get custody of the kids, and still get child support. That's actually a massive freaking risk. You're not off to a good start, sister.
But you knew what you were doing, right? And if you didn't want a child, you knew what not to do, and you did it anyway. So those are just the consequences of your own actions. But other than that, for men, dating, marriage, relationships, and parenting typically don't involve half of the shit that it involves for women.
How would you know? Like, how would you know what all of that involves? At no point have you mentioned that you've had kids. At no point have you mentioned that you've been married. You're just saying that we're terrible and we don't know what it's like to grow a baby inside of our wombs, which is also incredibly phobic. How dare you assume our genderisms? You best think about that before passing some judgment on us, woman.
And half is such an understatement. The reason that women are opting out of these things is because there's not that much in it for them, right? There's not so much in it for them in a relationship that they would risk being murdered by their own partner.
So your immediate reaction is to say that we're all terrible people and that we're all violent psychopaths. We've gone over this before, woman. You cannot judge an entire group of men for being violent because of the crimes of a precious few.
There's not so much, for them in being a mother, which should be a beautiful, fulfilling, awesome experience that women get to enjoy. But unfortunately, a lot of them are deciding that it's not worth it with the men that are currently out there. You can't raise a child on your own. It used to take an entire village, and now that whole entire job is on a woman's shoulders.
I never understood the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It really just takes a good mother and a good father and a stable home to raise a child. Yes, the village can offer a few things, but at the end of the day, it's really the parent's responsibility. And if you are immediately cutting out the father, then all you're doing is guaranteeing that your child's life is going to be completely and utterly screwed up. But then again, I'm just going to have to assume you do not have children, because if you did, you would be flaunting them left and right to make your point. You're merely basing this off of emotional assumptions with no evidence whatsoever to back it up.
And men are like, oh, we're not going to date you either. Oh, God forbid, you won't date me.
Well, I'm not going to date you. You're unpleasant and you're incredibly mean, and I'm fairly certain you don't smell nice either.
Insist on going raw for your own pleasure and then get really mad and try to convince me to get when you are faced with the consequences of your own actions. And not only that, but even if I do have this child, you will feel absolutely no pressure to contribute to that child's life in any way other than what a court puts on you.
Really?
Hold up. You mean to tell me that if a man somehow loses all form of common sense and dignity and somehow impregnates you, which you've already established is putting your life in danger, that man is under no obligation to take care of you, despite the fact that all of society would rise up and tell him that as a man, he is under every obligation to take care of you and take care of that child. He has no choice. He can't opt out, and you can pursue legal action. However, if you decide that you do not want the child and he does, he doesn't get a say in what you do with that child. But then again, that guy is probably just going to violently take away your life anyway. So what point are you trying to make here, woman?
But I'm asking, like, what is the equivalent of that for men? Second of all, again, you're trying to scare women with, guess what happens when the good men step back? From what? Where are they right now?
We've been here the whole time. You have been publicly passing judgment on all of us. You've been telling us for decades that we aren't good enough to bask in your rotted out gloriousness. And so we've pretty much just said, fine, you want nothing to do with us? Well, the feeling's mutual, sugar. Go and live your best life. Go do the sprinkle dance thingy. See what's going to be waiting for you afterwards, because it sure as hell isn't going to be us. Why should we bother? You're just gonna try to get us convicted of shoplifting anyway.
Where are they right now? I want to know. You're stepping back from what? Look up crime statistics against women.
Here we go again. You're like a broken record. Guess what, lady? Not all men are violent criminals. Now, I know that's hard for you to believe, but that's the only rock you have right now. And it's not so much of a rock as it is a tiny little pebble. And when you throw it at somebody, it doesn't do any damage. It's just pointless and kind of annoying.
Where are the good men? Not doing a damn diddly squat about it.
So what do you propose then? You're saying that good men aren't doing enough to prevent violence against women. So what do you want us to do? Do you want us to become vigilantes? I mean, don't get me wrong. It would be cool to have a crime fighting costume, but being a vigilante is kind of sort of extremely against the law. And if we were to do that, you just accuse us of being violent psychopaths for stopping crime anyways and not letting the cops deal with it. So either way, we can't win.
That's where they are. So step back from what? Second of all, if these were really good men you were talking about, why the would they want to step back from a movement that liberates women?
Because that movement has made you entitled, insufferable, and has overinflated your ego to the point where being around you is incredibly gut-wrenching. Now, you can slather on as much makeup as you want, but you're about as feminine as Arnold Schwarzenegger after a 2-week bender in a house of ill repute. Oh, and when I say Arnold Schwarzenegger, I mean like 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger, not current Schwarzenegger, the meme kind. I'm talking about the one that was actually a badass.
To no longer donate free labor to men and to a society that doesn't value it at all.
Well, society doesn't value you because you have no value. You keep talking about free labor, but you don't actually give a definition of what this labor is. I have to assume that you're talking about being a housewife. And if you're talking about being a housewife, that's not free labor. That's actually a duty that you literally swear an oath to a deity to uphold. And that's a completely different philosophical can of worms. You are not giving away free labor. You have a job. You are paid for that job. Ergo, that labor is paid labor. You don't know what you're talking about.
And that has historically just unceremoniously forced them into it instead of even asking them if they want to do it. And now that women are asking themselves if they want to do it, everyone's got an opinion about it.
Objection! God, the irony. Woman, you are not being given the choice to work. You have no choice but to work in today's society. Even if you got married and had children, you would not be allowed to be a stay-at-home wife, because odds are you are going to need to have a 2-income household in order to support that family. So not only would you have to be a mother, you would also have to be a full-time employee at a soul-sucking job that's gonna suck away your energy and your life force. If you ask me, being a stay-at-home wife in comparison is probably a fair trade, but then again, what do I know? I'm just a violent psychopath.
That's no surprise to us. It's no surprise that guys who think that they're such good men because they want to come into women's movements and manipulate them away from anything that's going to actually cause them to stop and think and grow and change.
You're incapable of doing all of those things because all you have done for the last decade is invade men's spaces. All men want is some peace and to be left alone every once in a while. But no, we're not allowed to have that. We're not allowed to have our own sports teams. We're not allowed to have the gym. We're not even allowed to have our own power fantasies in the forms of movies and video games. You have demanded entry into all of those spaces and to remind us that we are terrible people. This is a movement of men making fun of you because they're fed up.
Those are men like you. Those are not good men, okay? Those are men cosplaying, pretending to be good men so that they can infiltrate a women's movement and once again tell them what to do and what not to do and what they can and can't say.
Do you honestly think men have nothing better to do with their time than come along with these unnecessarily elaborate cockamamie schemes to infiltrate your politically motivated hate movement just to undermine it? Lady, we work and we have things to do. We have hobbies, we have lives, and those lives actually revolve around avoiding you.
So no thank you to those good men. Well, whenever you want to talk about men giving women their rights, who took them away? Go ahead, who took them away?
What rights are you talking about? Seriously, what rights are you talking about? If we're going to have a conversation about this, you need to talk about what rights. What rights do you not have today that a man has? I'll wait. So you're not going to say anything then? Okay, all right. That's what I thought.
Okay, so, and you know this, and that's why you said some men in there. Oh, without some men, your movement, yeah, it wouldn't even be in this predicament in the first place without the majority of y'all. And that's why I'm saying, like, women are so far narrowing their dating standards that y'all can't even you can't even compete.
Well, you guys can't even compete with your own dating standards. That's because 80% of you are chasing after 20% of the men. There are more of you than there are of those men. You're competing with each other. Meanwhile, you've been ignoring us for the most part, but when you do notice us, you've been giving us nothing but grief. So we just turned around and just said, fine, you know what? Go after him. We couldn't care less.
And that's why y'all are starting all these drizzle movements, and it's satire. It's a big joke.
It is a big joke, just like you.
Like, no, y'all sounded pretty serious about it in all the videos that I saw.
That's because you're incapable of detecting sarcasm. Like, seriously, it was so obviously sarcasm and satire and making fun of you. And yet here you are so blatantly triggered over it that instead of maybe doing some self-reflection and maybe thinking that you might be a little bit in the wrong, you are just going on this manic rant that makes no sense whatsoever.
Start your movement then. Oh, now it's a joke. Now that women are like, yeah, go ahead. You're like, oh no, it's a joke. It's satire.
This movement's been going around for a while. Men have pretty much given up on broads like you and are just doing their own thing. We've been doing it forever. Drizzle is just the latest trend that came from it. Countless men have walked away from dating and are focusing more on improving their lives and finding peace than wasting their time with you. And now that we're calling you out on it, all you're doing is going scorched earth on what precious few prospects you have left. Woman, you just called us all terrible, violent psychopaths. You have not thought any of this through.
For sure. That's actually called a bluff. That's not called a joke. That's called a bluff. That means you thought you had a good hand, but you actually don't, and now you're walking it back. Over here bluffing.
Wow, she almost got the definition of a joke correctly. Sister, we're not bluffing, and we haven't been bluffing. We've made that abundantly clear. We have gone our own way. We're working out, we're expanding our hobbies, starting businesses, or hell, some of us are just hanging out over at Skeeter's house for his ultimate crossfire tournament. Winner gets $20 to a burrito joint downtown. It's gonna be pretty freaking awesome.
The only thing that y'all can really threaten us with is your own violence.
Stop saying that!
Are you kidding me? Nobody has threatened you with violence, woman. Stop doing that. It is making you look absurd.
Your own male violence. You're saying, how about I step back? From where? First of all, from where? You're not standing anywhere. You're not standing in between women and their abusers. Trust me, because if you were, you'd be calling out other men. You wouldn't be trolling on my page. You'd be
Woman, this all started because a guy left 2 words on your comments, and then you went on a 10-minute long rant accusing men of all sorts of heinous stuff. Then somebody called you out on it, and now you are getting angry at us. All you have done is saying that we are worthless, but now you're also turning around and saying not only are we worthless, but we're also obligated to protect you from the nation's psychopaths. How do you expect us to do that? How? If we are so weak and so useless, how are we supposed to protect you? I'm sorry, but if you're gonna play that card, you need to be responsible for your own protection, sister. That is not on us, especially after some of the vile crap you just threw on us.
You're supporting this for women. You'd be telling women about this if you weren't a little coward. If you were actually a good man, you're a little coward because you want to scare women back into submission.
Oh, please, no one's threatening you. If anybody's scared here, you're trying to scare us with this psycho talk. What's wrong with you, lady? You're incapable of being submissive. You're too far down that particular rabbit hole that you are not even worth approaching. And now that you have preemptively burned every possible bridge, you're gonna spend the rest of your life alone. Now, if you're fine with that, that's on you, but you can't blame us for your terrible life decisions.
You want to scare women back into the 1920s and the 1930s when they had no rights.
The 1920s, huh? You really want to go there? Okay, let's do it. For any of the gentlemen and gents in the comments section right now, if you are a historian on this particular subject, feel free to correct me. I do not have all the right answers. Do have some vague notions about what happened into the buildup of the 1920s and the Prohibition era. There was this huge movement. It was called the Temperance Movement. This movement was designed to make alcohol illegal. It was hugely supported by women. Women were demanding that alcohol be made illegal in the United States. I think a lot of this had to do with anti-German sentiment during the First World War, and they were trying to demonize German beer brewers, something like that. I don't know. They succeeded in a constitutional amendment to ban alcohol in the United States. And guess what happened next? Oh, it's this little thing called one of the worst violent gang warfare periods in American history to that point. Countless people died, and it wasn't until the 1930s where they grew enough sense to actually repeal that stupid amendment. I don't know how close I am to being right in that, but you know what? Feel free to correct me because I am not the world's greatest historian. But the point is that women had the right to be able to protest and ban the sale of alcohol, and it led to one of the most violent periods in American history to that point.
Because that's all you have. You don't actually have any value. This is what I was trying to explain in the original video.
If we have no value, then why do you expect us to protect you, you thick-headed clod?
Is that y'all don't have any actual value to take away from women. The only thing you can say is, oh, where would you be without us? You know where? Look up the crime statistics and imagine that not happening.
You do realize that women will plot someone else's demise over something as innocuous as a pair of shoes, right? Lady, I find it profoundly ignorant that you think a society run by women would be this peaceful utopia. We already have countless examples of women in power, and things are worse than ever. All you are doing is making things worse when you pass this kind of needless judgment.
Go into men's faces online and imagine those didn't exist.
So, because men troll you, that makes us incredibly violent. People troll each other online. They've been doing it since the internet's inception. You accept it and you move on. Words are not violence, no matter how badly you wish they were.
Like, how would the world not be a better place? I'm just asking. I'm just asking what I feel like are very obvious questions.
And there's the problem. You feel like it's obvious. You are not basing this off of any real facts, and you have yet to actually prove anything except be an emotional train wreck because somebody wrote Drizzle in your comment section.
Like, what is so hard about this? This is not difficult to grasp or comprehend.
It is for you. You haven't made a single point.
If you have to protect us from you, then you're the baddies.
We're not protecting you from anything. We're not protecting you from you. We're not protecting you from us. We are leaving you to your devices. We are leaving you alone. I thought that's what you wanted. Woman, you don't know what you want. This whole thing is giving you exactly what you want, and that's all of us terrible bad men leaving you alone. That's not going to stop us from making fun of you every once in a while, but we're not going to come near you. We're not going to talk to you in real life. We're most certainly not going to touch you either. It's the world you always dreamed of.
I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way.
The bad guys. If you're saying that, oh, without some good men, you wouldn't even be here, then you're only validating my point that most men are awful to women.
You are taking that reply completely out of context. Feminism has done nothing but turned you into an angry, bitter, bridge-burning crone. You take everything literally and at face value. You are not willing to hear anybody else's side of the argument, even when they bring certifiable facts to the table. You just want to be right. You want to be a victim, and you also want to be empowered. You want to be all of these things wrapped up, and you want us to just bow to you. I'm not going to bow to you. I'm just going to turn my back. It's a lot funnier.
How does that manage to fly so far over your head every time, you guys? Every time. As far as the whole, like, oh, men gave you your rights and stuff, still wrong, because the only time that men have ever really given women their rights has been by reluctantly signing a bill that women brought to them after everybody first tried to stop them.
Okay, like when? You mind providing me with a contextual point here so you can actually prove your argument? Please, I am more than interested in hearing about this. Please enlighten me.
If you don't believe me, please read up on the history of women's voting rights. Read up.
No, that's not how this works, sister. You just said the only time that men have ever given women rights was when it was under pressure and it was under duress. And then you tell me to look it up? No, you brought it up. You tell me. I'm such an ignorant, violent, psychopath bad guy that I couldn't possibly know how to read. So you tell me.
On women's right to work.
No.
Made propaganda about, negative propaganda about, to discourage women from wanting even to have their own rights to vote. Those were men. Men did that. Men did that.
So hang on, your arguments are based on things that happened over 100 years ago. The fact that the 19th Amendment wasn't a thing over 100 years ago has no bearing on your life right now. So therefore, your argument is completely null and void. You don't even have an argument. You're just telling me to do the work for you, just like a modern woman.
But what they didn't do was fight for the rights of women. Women did that. Women did that every time for themselves.
You're not even going to provide evidence, so I'm not even going to ask.
That's like saying white people freed the slaves. Like, no, they didn't. They first had to fight each other in order to even, like, come to that conclusion.
So you clearly know nothing about American history, and you know absolutely nothing about the Civil War and the aftermath. I would not expect anything less.
A whole civil war broke out. It wasn't even about people's rights. It was about something else that resulted in. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is what happens to women too.
So hold up. You are talking about an ideological war that literally split the Americas in half and led to one of the bloodiest conflicts in this nation's history, which is still argued to this day, is somehow equivalent to you being frustrated over a guy who wrote Drizzle in your comments section?
And then men will turn around and say, oh, well, a man signed your Bill of Rights. Fuck you. He first signed my Bill of Unrights until women did something about it.
Let's unpack this for a minute because this is woefully uneducated. So you're saying that the Bill of Rights and the Constitution are null and void because they were signed by men, and that somehow oppresses you today, even though the Revolutionary War was fought by men against the British in order for this country to seek its independence and grow into the nation where it's become, which also recognizes your fundamental right to be able to talk smack about every single man around you, completely disregarding their contributions to society and pretty much just saying that you don't need any of them because the 19th Amendment wasn't a thing back in 1776. Lady, if you're seriously gonna do this, you need to come to this argument with a little bit more knowledge than none at all.
Until it was inevitable that it wasn't going to be this way anymore. And then he was like, oh, let me sign it. Yeah, face, thank you. You sat there, typed all that out, and thought it would be a good comment to leave. Like, especially when you're resorting to arguments like, oh, we're the ones that, and you're the ones that, what else?
What exactly do? You have yet to name one way that you actually contribute to society.
You're the ones that, what else? Did women take away their own rights? I don't think so.
What rights are you talking about? I am sick to death of hearing modern women go, well, our rights are taken away. What rights? What rights do you not have? You keep saying it over and over and over and over again, as if you say it one more time, it's gonna magically come true. What rights don't you have?
I don't think so. It was the men. I have rights because of you. I have rights because of women. The only things that I have thanks to men on a large scale are like trauma and distrust.
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise.
That's not our fault.
Those are the things that we have because of men. We have crime against women.
Oh my God. Women cause crimes against each other too, you know. That actually is a thing.
We have threats against women.
Women threaten each other all the time.
And we have the threats of our rights being taken away because of men.
You have more rights than a man.
Because of men like you who come in my comments and say, oh, what happens when the good men take a step back? The same thing that's always happened. We'll keep fighting for our rights and we will win.
Man, you are one pathetic loser. No offense.
Woman, you've already lost. For starters, you're going to be working every day until your final breath. You lost a majority of the men. We want nothing to do with you, especially after this last rant where you've just shown how ignorant and mean-spirited you are. And finally, if you think you have no rights now, just wait until 2030 when you own nothing and you'll be happy.
Because it's men who need women to survive.
Actually, it's the opposite. You need men to survive. Men are the ones, it's the opposite, woman. Men are the ones that keep society going. Men are the ones who fight wars. Men are the pillars of strength. There is no shame in admitting that.
Quite literally, and not the other way around.
You got it so backwards. Okay, so you're gonna take that job hauling garbage on the garbage truck then? Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it.
Do you understand that? Men talk about the civilization they built. Who's the civilization?
Who's the civilization? Look outside. Seriously, look outside. Men built that. Okay? And I'm not just talking about modern society. Take a look at the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, the French, the Chinese, the Japanese, South America. Look everywhere. Men built those societies.
Who was it for?
For all of humankind?
Oh, was it the people that the women created with their bodies?
Are you serious? So, because you gave birth to men, you're taking credit for society. Oh my God, you haven't contributed anything to any of this. All you have done is blame us for your problems. You haven't done a thing.
So we both did labor then. So we both built the society and the civilization.
Yeah, it almost seems like men and women need each other, but men are the ones who build. We always have, and we always will. We're just gonna build nothing with you.
And that's an interesting thing about mathematics is when you're 50% right, you're 100% wrong.
Because you know what wouldn't be a civilization without? You can have all the buildings and everything that you want. Without people, you don't have a civilization. You can have all the infrastructure you want, but without people, you don't have a society.
Yes, men need women to breed, and women need men to breed. What exactly are you saying here? I failed to see any single point that you've made.
You don't have an economy. You don't have a marketplace. And who the makes those? Who makes those?
Bureaucrats and capitalists, I think.
One thing I can assure you of, because I actually do happen to know some really good men, one thing
You know simps. That's who you know. You know simps.
I can assure you of is that they won't be stepping back. They know exactly what this movement is all about, and they want that for everyone.
Okay, good. Then you're covered, right? So you're gonna go make babies with these guys? Wait, what's that? You don't respect them? Oh, of course, right, because they're simps. If these guys were truly good men, you would just go and be with them. You wouldn't be lecturing us, and badly, by the way.
They're not going to take a step back because they're not threatened by women who are people just like them.
We don't care. Go be with them. Go forth and prosper with them. Live your life. Go do it with them. See if we give a damn. We're not gonna care.
They're not threatened by women saying, oh, we're going to hold back our services and our presence from men who treat us like. The only thing that good men would say to that is, good, you should have been doing that all along. I hope that helps. You're not a good man. You can stop going around pretending to be one because you just exposed yourself.
You're the one who exposed yourself. You just showed that you're incredibly ignorant, you're entitled, and you use your feelings to try to prove concrete facts that could be easily debunked with a simple encyclopedia search. You're also incredibly angry, you're not very friendly, and you just want to blame us for all of your problems. You spent 8 minutes calling us nothing but violent psychopaths, even though that isn't even true at all. You quote crime statistics without actually quoting crime statistics, and you even have the gall to compare your personal problems to the civil frickin' war. If there's any self-respecting man out there who would still want to be with you after this rant, I truly pity them. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button. Ring the notification bell, leave a couple of comments, share this video, and let's give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, and until next time, peace out, homies.